Hi there, I'm Ed Hammond. I'm selling my 1955 Ford F-100 pickup truck. I just spent the last 3 years doing a complete restoration. My dad is dying of pancreatic cancer, and I inherited this 67 Buick that I restored 26 years ago. So I don't have room for both, so this one had to go. Unlike many cars you might find for sale, I'm kind of in a pinch and I have to get rid of one of my cars. It's not like there's anything wrong with this thing, and it kind of kills me to have to sell it. So I'll kind of get a rundown of what's been done in the last 3 years. The body has been taken down to bare metal, blasted. That's the only thing that I didn't do myself, and I didn't do the transmission. But everything else was done by me. So bodywork, paint, 3-inch drop, rims, disc brakes in the front, power brakes, new steering column, power steering, chrome alternator. And then this was very basic when I got it, very original. Didn't have seat belts, didn't have a heater. So I put a heater into it. And if you look at the front here, that's the heater. So the guy I bought it from had 15 years and just basically had it in the garage. So the amount of rust in it was minimal. Matter of fact, the guy who blasted it said he'd never seen a 55 Ford with this good a condition body, and it was pretty original. So I'm also going to tell you the little glitches that are on my to-do list that didn't get done. As you can see, this thing tends to hang open, and I've tried a new spring. It didn't help. So I'm thinking, I was experimenting with a clip here to maybe keep it closed, but it'll stay there when you push it, but it'll tend to pop open. And I had bumpers here originally, but then it made it stick out, so I just took them out of there. That's an automatic C4. I wanted the stick, I like the look. Let's see here. New glass, new seals. This rubber is original because it was fine, but the glass is new. And then this was sanded and painted. Mirrors are new, even though they're cheap and made in China, and this little nut's rusting, but that could probably be replaced. New regulator, new heater, because this is going to be new. Pretty much everything in here is new except for the engine. The engine is a 69-302 out of a Mustang, according to the numbers, and it's got a brand new Edelbrock radiator. Even without a shroud, cools perfectly fine. I've driven it in 90-degree heat, not a problem. And brand new starter, came with the rebuilt transmission. Transmission was done by Wicked up in South Hill, Graham area. And hood is fiberglass. It was that way when I got it, but when I got it, it had never been painted. So the inside's kind of rough, so I painted it with a roll-on bed liner because I figured it'd be durable. And so here's the power brakes that were just added on last year. New shocks. Changed out the tie rods while I was at it. There's the disc brakes. Changed it over to GM 5 lug because you can get the best selection of hot rod rims. So these American Racing, these are pretty much the torque thrust that you're going to see on a lot of hot rods. Now these back ones still have the drum brakes, so I had to put in a spacer in there to change the bolt pattern. But if you change these to disc brakes, then you can choose disc brakes that match the bolt pattern like I did for the front and take that spacer out. So we got a tilt steering wheel here. This is our headlights, wipers. This is the old starter button, doesn't do anything now. The ignition's in the middle there. And then you got the cigarette lighter and the choke. And the choke's not being used because I have automatic choke. And then you got the heater controls down there. It's got a bench seat that's in fantastic condition, so I didn't have to do anything to that. And kind of see Underside what it looks like. A little custom mounting on there because the back didn't quite mount up right. And I got sound deadening material that you can kind of see down there. It's on the floor, the doors, the ceiling. Dome lights out of a Mustang. I thought I'd change it up. I've pulled the fuse out for this right now because I work on it so much it was killing the battery. So if you'll notice it's not lit up, that's why. Headliner. So underneath here is the original factory headliner. I took it out for a year while I did the body, and when I put it back in, it just doesn't meet up with the rubber for some reason. And I put carpet over it. So I thought I could probably get a little piece of plastic to stick in here to hold this up, but I hadn't got around to that. Or you could just replace the whole thing. It's not a big deal. All the gauges work. There is, oh, you can't see it, but there's 322 miles or something like that since I finished the restoration and put these gauges in. So everything works correctly. I've got a new fuel sender, voltmeter, speedometer. This little red button right here is for programming the speedometer if you need to make adjustments. I haven't really tested it to make sure it's correct ever since I've put new rims on, but it should be. And then the water and oil pressure work fine. Because I did the paint myself, there are little small flaws here and there, but nothing major. Like you might notice that I have a little bit of a run right here. I didn't hit it real good in this corner with the clear. This corner tends to leak just a little bit when it rains. It's not a big deal. It dries fast enough in the summertime. In the winter I have it covered. There's no sealant. This is just rubber. So you could put sealant underneath here and seal that up probably and take care of that if you wanted to. I have a power door lock in this door, and this is the wires for it. To get from here to here is not easy and requires taking the door off to drill the holes because of the angle. And so I have all the components to do this, to run it through a really nice setup that was about 50 bucks, but I haven't taken the door off to drill the holes to do that. So that's something that still needs to be done. These work great. And I had the ones that match for this, but they tended to wobble. So I went back to the factory ones, they work better. These doors, the rubber seal, you can see there's maybe a small gap there, but pretty good up here. Because of this latch, that's why everybody switches off of these, because it's hard to get it just right, or if you have to really slam it to get to the next latching point, so it'll hold these rubber seals tight. So this is a original steel fender. When I took it off the car, down here where they meet is a rust problem, probably for everybody. So whoever did the bodywork originally Bondo the hell out of it. When I took all the Bondo off the fender, I replaced this area, that's still metal right there, but with fiberglass, so that there's nothing, or not as much, metal to rot out in the future. Did the same thing on this side. These vents are sealed off. The heater I have does not have the fresh air intake. It's an option, so there's nothing going in through here. This is your heater control, which has fallen off. Easy fix. New horn. Oh, I almost forgot. Okay, so this is a little add-on panel. Sometimes you need to add something on and you don't want to have to dink with the fuse panel that I replaced. I'll buy all new wiring harness, by the way. So I kind of added this. It's pretty nice. It won't work if any of the fuses are missing, so make sure you have fuses in every slot, even if you're not using that slot. But I've got the choke running off of this and something else. I forget what the other thing is. Being an old truck and you don't drive it a lot, maybe the gas gets stale. I try to put additives in the gas to keep it stable, but I also have the fuel filter. That's the pump, and before and after, just to make sure it's extra clean. As you can see, the fuel looks pretty good. There's your it's a little pipe adapter for the oil pressure sender, power steering pump, and we've got the Lucar kickdown linkage for the transmission right there. And everything's been tuned up. So the one of the little things here, you see how that nut is kind of like touching the valve cover? That's the second set of valve covers I had to get to try to fit it in here. It's a real tight fit. So these 3 bolts on the firewall hold the accelerator pedal. I think that lower one that's rubbing is probably not required to. It's probably going to get by. So what I was going to do is, that nut in the corner is really hard to get to. You can only move it a little bit at a time, so it takes patience to back it in and out, but I was able to do it just fine. So that's the hard part. Get that little nut off the valve cover, the rest of them are a cinch. Take this off, remove that bolt from the accelerator pedal, and then it won't rub. So sometimes if it's idling weird and the engine is rocking back and forth, you may hear it up against that nut. So, or that bolt, I mean. So taking that out would get rid of that. So, I bought these chrome strips. They look nice, but I've taken the screws out because I keep pulling up the carpet to do work on the truck, and it was in and out, in and out, in and out. So they stay on there pretty well despite pressure, so I'm leaving it alone. There are some small paint flaws. I don't know if you can see this. There's kind of a, see that kind of a white. I think what it is those are some pits that wax got into, and while I could probably wet sand that stuff out, it's questionable whether or not I would cut through to the primer. So I've decided, yeah, I'm just going to leave it. I don't want to take a chance in cutting through the primer on the hood. Of course, I did paint the hood twice. It didn't come out the way I wanted the first time, so I sanded it down over a period of a month and shot it a second time. So there should be 2 full coats of red on there, but here we're going to start it up. Hit the fuel once. So it looks like 336 miles. So runs smooth.